Hello and welcome everyone to your midweek live with Ankit here. I'll be going through today's market price action, and most importantly, we'll be taking a look at this upcoming FOMC press conference that's just due in less than an hour. So we'll take a look at how things are setting up, and we'll talk more specifically about how we're going to strategize ourselves for this upcoming news event. As always, have any questions, just type in the chat box and we'll take the questions as we go.
Do you want to be a professional trader? Maverick Currencies is the oldest US-based Forex and crypto prop trading company that will pay you for trading with our capital. Trade our capital and keep 70 to 80% of the profits. We are looking for traders just like you that are hardworking and motivated. Click the apply link on the top right of this video to see if you have what it takes. That link takes you to a 4-minute video that explains the trader position available, and you read a list of FAQs that answer pretty much all the basic questions you have at this point. After watching the video and reading the FAQs, if you're interested, fill out an application, then you'll watch the full-length recruiting video, and then schedule an interview with one of our traders. Are you our next trader?
All right. So again, let's just talk about what's really happening in the markets. And overall, you can see that the markets are it's not really surprising here. It's kind of moving along the same lines that what we've seen in the market. So overall, if you just take a look at market momentum has been on the upside. Again, we take a look at, all this negativity out there. People are, this geopolitical tensions that we're seeing in the Middle East. And usually, I always say, always take a look at what's happening in the price action to really set up your biases there. And you can see that market overall remains bullish. And we see some shorter term pullbacks, but then those just pullbacks is a good buying opportunity. So overall, we don't see a whole lot of difference in the broader markets. Now, when we talk about currencies, currencies are also staying within that range. So as far as talking about what's changed, the market environment, I think we're kind of going along the same lines here. Now, let's just take a look at where we are in the market performance. As you can see that, all right, well, it looks like I got a little typo here. Pound is not the strongest here. Let me just quickly check the number on the pound here. Again, pound is up like 0.22%. So let's just, we'll make that quick change over here. All right, so yeah, we'll just make that change here. This is again 0.22%. So overall, you can see that everything is kind of moving along in this little band here. So not a whole lot of, not a whole lot of strong direction in either place. We saw a nice direction last week in Euro. But then we take a look at the aftermath, the euro has kind of stalled as well. So I think as far as the strategy selection goes, I still favor, looking at range-bound strategies where you're looking at buying the support or resistance. That's where you want to make those moves. But then, kind of not go for the breakouts. One of the things that, in these market environments, you'll notice is that it doesn't matter you're right at the direction. If you kind of go in with a breakout strategies, a lot of time it just fails. But then pullbacks just are good buying opportunities or selling opportunities on those bear rallies. But overall, not a lot of strong trend here. One thing that did weaken this week was the British pound. We'll take a look at the British pound. That being the weakest out there. But outside of that, Swiss franc is sort of pulling back a little bit here. The dollar kind of remain a currency of mystery here because, again, we kind of stalled on that underperformance. We kind of stalled at the support level. It's not really a great buy. It's not really a great sell. So you got to realize that sometimes currencies reach a point where, it's not a great short, but it's not a great buy either. So you kind of have to leave them alone and kind of wait for the price action. The yen has been definitely a better currency to trade in, but lately we've seen in the last 24 hours, it's kind of bounced off the support level as well. So overall, everything is kind of moving along in those price channels. Now, when we take a look at broader markets, we are seeing equity markets being strong today. Crypto markets are slightly down, gold is slightly up, and we're seeing a bit of a drop in the oil market here. But overall, you can see the market kind of staying in that good risk-on sentiment. Now, in the crypto market, I'm definitely seeing a bit of a stall there as well. Some of the cryptos like Bitcoin, Ethereum, they were kind of on a run, and they kind of stalled here a little bit here. So you have to really identify when something is in a distribution mode where things are moving, and then suddenly things sort of pull back and kind of gets back into the range. Now, when we take a look at broader markets, like I said, I'm still on that +2 outlook, and this is why. If you look at markets, remember where we were back in April and March. That's when things were like really underperforming, and there was fear out there. We saw yen did so well. We saw Swiss franc did so well. Like, that was the market. Now, if you look at this one, this is very much orderly, staying positive overall. It's still above the 20, the 50-day moving average. So this market, again, not giving you a signal that it wants to roll over, but overall, it's just staying pretty strong. Now, if it does give up this 20-day moving average, then that's what we'll say, okay, the score is sort of weakening here a little bit. But as of now, everything kind of still look pretty strong here. It's more like a consolidation here than anything else. So until this really changes, that's where we want to stay on the right side of the market, which again, right now, is more on the risk-on environment. Now, when we take a look at these news events this week, you can see that this is a pretty busy week. Overall, Bank of Japan made no change. So that's what it was expected. And we didn't really see any fireworks after that. Then we take a look at some of the numbers like retail sales. I mean, this one was a lot lower than expected. I was surprised with that too, because we're seeing consumer sentiment getting better, but the retail sales were actually worse than expected. Again, did not have a big impact on the markets. We are seeing the inflation number out of the UK was slightly higher, but again, we were seeing relative weakness in the British pound here. But then most importantly, now we have this FOMC today. After the FOMC, we get the Kiwi GDP, and we also get the Aussie employment report. You can see that pretty busy day today. And again, we have the Swiss National Bank rate statement tomorrow. We got the UK rate statement tomorrow. So the next 24 to 48 hours definitely looks busy here. So that's where I think we want to be more active. But as far as the U.S. Statement goes, I think we're not really expecting. There's a 99% chance that they're looking to hold rates here. So that's not going to be a surprise. What we need to take a look at is the statement and the projection. Are they changing their tune? We've seen some weaker economic data. Is that going to factor in some of the commentary from the Fed? As you can see that right now we have a lot of tug and pull going on. We have President Trump was constantly putting pressure and saying, hey, they should lower the rates. But Fed, on the other hand, they're an independent body, so they can't really be influenced by that. And again, if you were trading back in 17, 18, this was very similar at that time too. That's a similar rhetoric. But at the end of the day, it's the economic numbers that's going to drive the policy. But what we've seen is lately we're seeing weaker data, and then we're seeing the lower print in the inflation. So I think this is where it can really go either way. Either they talk and say, well, nothing and data dependent, or maybe they give us some hint that, hey, maybe the rate cuts are coming sooner than later. So again, I think that will going to drive more of the movement. But overall, we are not really expecting a whole lot out of this. But around the news events, you should be always prepared for the best and the worst case scenario. And then we'll take a look at the GDP from from New Zealand, and we'll take a look at employment report from Australia. So again, these news events, you want to treat it like, depending on how the news event comes, we want to respond to it accordingly. So yeah, next 24 hours definitely looks busy here. So as far as the velocity score goes, you can see Aussie actually is showing better performance here, and yen, where we're seeing underperformance in CAD and Swiss franc. But again, this is a velocity for the day. So we will take a look at it and see where the trends are going, where the movements are going. But overall, you can see where the strength and weakness is. So let's just jump into our trading view here, and then we'll actually do this analysis live here.
Do you want to be a professional trader? Maverick Currencies is the oldest US-based Forex and crypto prop trading company that will pay you for trading with our capital. Trade our capital and keep 70 to 80% of the profits. We are looking for traders just like you that are hardworking and motivated. Click the apply link on the top right of this video to see if you have what it takes. That link takes you to a 4-minute video that explains the trader position available, and you read a list of FAQs that answer pretty much all the basic questions you have at this point. After watching the video and reading the FAQs, if you're interested, fill out an application, then you'll watch the full-length recruiting video, and then schedule an interview with one of our traders. Are you our next trader?
So let's just start with the good old mighty US dollar. And I know a lot of questions I've had is on the dollar. And I actually, kind of put that in the Discord channel here as well, saying that, where we are in this dollar, you can see that it seems like we kind of did break below the support area and then we bounced above it. We had a nice day yesterday, but then we were pulling back today. So at this point, if I'm really trying to make a decision here, it doesn't look like a great short because it's not really broken the support. Support is holding in there. It's not a great long because we are still getting this pressure from that 20 to 50-day moving average. So I think until we really get out of this low congestion, I think this is where we expect a little bit back and forth. But let's just say if the dollar does start to break above these moving averages, now there's momentum behind it. Now, the same way, if you start to break below this below the support area, now we know there's more momentum behind it. But if you take a look at, just zoom it in and take a look at price action here, the dollar has not gone anywhere for this entire month. Where we were back in June, the beginning of June, is exactly where we are right now. So this is where dollar definitely has gone more sideways. Now, talking about sideways, let's just go through all the other currency baskets here. One of the things, like I said, I've been talking about is, kind of paying close attention to support and resistance area, because in range-bound conditions, that's really where usually turns come. As you can see that the yen looked beautiful here on a break here. We had it tested here, had a bit of a bear rally, tested here, and then here we are right there. So you can see that this support level still kind of holds. I still like yen to the downside, but again, right now, because we are bouncing off the support, this thing could bounce a little bit before turning lower. So then let's move our focus on the Swiss franc. Take a look at Swiss franc. Now, when you look at this chart, now does it not look as predictable to you if you were just following that trend, which is sideways? We did stall right up against that resistance. So at this point, we are just reversing off the resistance level on this Swiss franc here. So I think the momentum definitely looks a bit weaker here on the Swiss franc. As you can see, we are getting below this 50-day moving average. Now, I do like this more on the further downside. Now, let's take a look at the euro. And euro, same thing, stalled right up against the resistance. So that's what I'm telling you. You have to take a look at these levels and then think counterintuitively. Instead of looking at breakouts, that's where you got to look for either a pause or maybe a little bit of a reversal. Now, the British pound, let's take a look at this one. Same thing. This thing I would say that has really turned the corner here. And I think I do like more British pound to the weaker side here. And then again, this is purely looking at the price action. We were +2 or +3 for the longest time. You can see that the pound has done really well so far this year, going from all the way down here to where we are. It's up like 4%. At one point, it was up like 5%. So you can see that this thing is now showing more relative weakness. So whenever you see this one, again, now you want to trade that with a little bit of a trend. And I think this one has more downside risk here. You can see that these bounces are very anemic. So pound goes on the short list for me here, making that shift based on the price action here. Now, the Canadian dollar, now take a look at this one and tell me, are you surprised by the behavior here? No, because, we get these big candles and then they get pushed down. And exactly what we got here, it looked pretty good yesterday or a couple of days ago, and then it just got pulled back here. So overall, this is still range bound. Don't really see this. This is actually a very messy chart if you look at it, because the lines are not the cleanest here. Then we go into the Aussie and the Kiwi. Well, what do you see here? Same thing. We get see a support or resistance. We did reverse off the resistance, and we got bounced off the support. So this thing again not really has that big momentum there. I mean, so far in the shorter term, it definitely looks the best here. It's likely to hit that resistance, but that's about it. Again, we only want to make our change our outlook once they start to break above those key levels. And then here we are with the Kiwi. And I mean, take a look at this one. This is one consistent sort of a level of resistance that it keeps failing at. So that's why, like, whenever you see this, I have less a desire to go buy those breakouts. But I'd rather, play those continuation on this range bound condition here. So as we went through all of this, again, not a single place where we can say, hey, this is where the money's going, or this is where the money's coming out. What we're seeing is just a back and forth price action. So now, keeping that in mind, I think what you really have to figure out is, okay, well, if the price movements are only lasting for a day or two, then maybe I need to choose the right time frame for it. Is daily a great time frame right now? I mean, that's the hardest one, because imagine if you're trading on the daily chart, you might be holding things for a lot longer, but not going anywhere. But you can get nice little momentum on a day-to-day basis. So let's just switch it to a velocity chart. I think that's really the name of the game here, is focus on velocity. I'm just going to use hourly chart here, because I think hourly is definitely looks the best here for the time frame, because I can enter a trade in the morning, let's say, exit the trade the same day, because I don't want to hold it for too long because the continuity is not there. I think an hourly chart definitely looks the best to me here compared to, when I'm playing directionally, then I'm mostly focusing on the 4-hour to a daily chart. So as you can see, as far as the momentum goes, we had the downward momentum today. I mean, take a look at 15-minute chart. You'll see like where the momentum gets in. So this is what you're really looking for, is what currency in play. Get in and get out, and you're not really committed to it either way, either long or short, because prices are likely to go back and forth. So let's talk about the dollar here. How do you want to play this in the next 24 hours? So you can see that this is an hourly chart here, and the dollar had a nice little jump yesterday off the support level, and here's the resistance. So what I would do here is that not really looking to play the long side of the dollar until it breaks that resistance, and don't want to play the short side of the dollar till it breaks the support. So we are kind of right in the middle of that range there. So I think, a lot of times where I would want to go long or short ahead of the news event, capture and move, again, at this point, it pretty much looks like a coin toss to me. It could go either way. So dollar definitely is in the middle here. And on the other hand, the yen, I did like yen short. I was mostly yen short last week going into this week, but I mean, this thing in the shorter term has that momentum to the upside. We got a support level right here, so I think at this point I want to take a little break on the yen short and maybe else look elsewhere. And I think other place that I can really take a look at, I know Swiss franc is bouncing off the resistance. Or of the support of the resistance level on the range. I think I like this one on the further short. The only risk with Swiss franc, and I've noticed that, is that every time there's a risk-off move in the markets, let's say some development happen in the Middle East conflict, or let's say US does get involved, like suddenly now there's a risk-off environment. Now those are the times where I've noticed, the yen will do well, Swiss franc will do well. But once you don't have that kind of concern, I think we can continue trading whichever way it's flowing. And right now, I think Swiss franc probably looks a little bit more weaker here. The British pound is actually the one that I really like here. To be honest, I think the pound is showing relative weakness. I want to capture that relative weakness. Question is that if I want to go long or short, like what do I want to, short pound against? Now, let me run it through the list here, see if there's anything. Not the CAD. CAD is very inconsistent. Maybe the Aussie. Aussie has a little bit of momentum. Not so much the Kiwi, because Kiwi is stuck here. So, that'll maybe lead me to the pound Aussie, especially if the market stays strong. But we can also take a look at pound against the dollar. Let's just say that if I want to go for dollar strength, pound against the dollar, or we can take a look at euro against the pound as well. I mean, euro has definitely slowed down, but these are the times where, when they deviate from each other, when things are positively correlated or negative correlated, and suddenly they change. Now that's where we can see some more movements here. So here's the first one. This is again for anyone that do like the euro long. I mean, take a look at how nicely this one is moving. So these are the ones which carry less of that, less of that volatility, but these are definitely take a little bit longer for them to develop. So you're in it on a higher time frame. You're not trading this on a short-term time frame. I mean, this thing on a day, let's start with the daily. We bottomed out right here, and it's actually moving nicely on the daily chart. Here's a 4-hour chart. You can see pullbacks are getting bought out. So this thing definitely is sort of showing that strength. So in this case, if I want to really play it on the long side, 85.60 to 85.40. I mean, that's a very little tight range here. But this is, again, working at a very slow pace. But you can see that one is moving here. Here's the other one. Let's say best case scenario for the dollar. I think pound dollar probably be a better short. And again, let's just start with the daily chart. You can see that daily chart has been very stubbornly bullish. Now, let me just take off these trend lines here. So you can see that the RSI is moving lower. We have been in this uptrending of that exponential moving average. That broke lower, and then we got kind of going below the RSI or the parabolic SR as well. So this one, again, on a 4-hour chart, I would say, having a nice little pattern here, nice little bear rally pattern. So if I really like, want to play the dollar strength, I think this one right here, break below 134.20 and stop right above 134, let's say 80. So that's about a 60 pip stop loss. I think this one, from a risk to reward perspective, makes sense to me. And what's the target here? I think the next target could easily be around that 133.50 area down to 133. So you can see that this thing definitely has a decent risk to reward on this position here. Now it's just a matter of, do we get that best case scenario for the dollar, or do we get the worst case scenario for the dollar? So I think overall dollar is a coin toss here. But if I talked about this in my Discord, the post that I made in the group there said, hey, this thing is holding that support. So I rather see if it's going to bounce a little bit from here. Remember, dollar has been really come down quite a bit so far this year. So it's just kind of going in this little sideways range here. But if this start to get above this level, I mean, you can see on this velocity chart, you can see that RSI is picking up a little bit here. So maybe look for this prior resistance to be broken. I think that's where we can catch some traction in some of the dollar pairs. And I think pound dollar just looks the best. The euro dollar is the other one that, I talked about it, same thing in the group. Now, pound dollar definitely looks like a better short, but this one I talked about, this little double top right here. It's stubbornly holding to this level, but again, as soon as it breaks below this exponential moving average, 114.60, I think if it breaks below this level, this definitely has more room to fall. Especially down to this 112 range. So a decent risk to reward. So as you can see, you can find decent risk to reward trades. It's just a matter of using the right vehicle. Like are you going for what time frame are you going for? If you're trying to catch a bigger move, then you might have to be a lot more patient and say, well, maybe I want to make a trade on a daily chart and try to capture the big move. Or you can just stick with whatever the velocity is telling you. But right now, I think as we look at all these currency pairs, dollar against the euro and against the pound looks interesting to me. Now, if I take a look at, here's another one. Here's another one we want to take a look at, dollar CAD. This was interesting this week. You can see that this thing has also been tearing down. And when take a look at this nice little, bullish engulfing candle here. I mean, we were quite bearish, and then we got a big, nice little reversal candle here. So we are right at this level here, but this is why I think a lot of the dollar pairs are sort of firming up a little bit here. So here's the dollar CAD, and you can see 136.40 to 137. That's a range, but I mean, looks like a little reversal to me. So I think this one is also setting up nicely. So as you can see, that doesn't matter what happened with these news events. As we look at the charts, I mean, I think the dollar's trying to reverse a little bit here. Now, dollar yen is the one that was my best sort of a long, but I've talked about as well that, hey, this thing is right up against the resistance, and look at that. It's kind of failing right there. So at this point, I think if this gets above it, I think that's where dollar yen probably a better pair. If it gets above that 144.50, because you can see that after that, it does have a lot of room to run to those levels. So it's just a matter of, trying to catch that momentum. I think that's what I really looking at here. All right, let me know if you have any questions, anything you're looking at. These are the pairs that I'm looking at in anticipation for the rate statement. Again, we are not expecting any fireworks, but usually the fireworks comes when there's something that happens that markets are not pricing in for. Let's say they do hint a rate cut. Now that's going to be new information, and then the prices will then have to readjust for it. So we'll see what happens. I'm not really expecting a whole lot. I think Fed has really done a great job at just keeping this, the expectation in line. A lot of times you just get more like what's expected, and a lot of that's just already priced in. All right, so Rudy had a question. What do you think of euro yen for tomorrow? The fourth trend line looks nice for a pullback opportunity with a good risk to reward. All right, let me take a look at this one. So you said you're looking at it on a 4-hour chart. So let me see. So on a 4-hour chart, so this is what I would say. When I look at this chart, it's a good chart here because let me start with the daily. You can see that on a daily had a massive breakout right here. So you got a breakout over here, and you got a breakout over here. So after that breakout, you can see we had a first initial push, but really no follow through that. So the question is this a pullback you want to buy into, or is this something that is a failed breakout? It's going to fall back in the range. So those are the two possibilities you got to take a look at. So for now, for me, I think this level needs to really hold. Wherever this level is, 160, 166.47, this level needs to hold. If this level holds and start to rise up again, I think that's a beautiful bull pullback setup. If this kind of closed down here and get back in the range, and I think that's where it would kind of lose that appeal for me to buy as a pullback. So on a 4-hour chart, you can see that this is, I'm just going to go back here. On a 4-hour chart, you can see that it's trying to give up that support, which is prior resistance to now support. So yeah, these levels are important. I think it's a 50-50 here. But as we looked at the yen currency basket, we noticed that yen is sort of having a bit of rally here off the key support area. So if the yen sort of firm up a little bit in the short term, I wouldn't be surprised to sort of roll over a little bit here. So don't really have a strong call on this one, but always keep in mind, these key levels. When it breaks, does it hold or does it fall back the range? Because when it does fall back in a range, then that's where you have falls breakout. So hope that answers your question here. I'm a little bit more cautious here. Same thing goes with the Swiss franc yen as well. I know I talked about Swiss franc yen recently and say, hey, look at that massive level of resistance that it broke. So you can see right here, that was the area that it broke, 176. And now you can see where it's stalling. It's stalling literally at that level. So this thing, I would say that's fallen back in the range. Like this was a big breakout, and it's with the big bearish candle here, it's kind of breaking down here. So don't really love that as a long here. I think if this needs to pull back, it needs to pull back a little bit further. Now, let me take a look at so another pair that I was actually paying attention to was the Euro Swiss franc. So, this is another pair that I've been paying attention to, but nothing really has triggered yet. This again goes back to the whole relative strength of weakness. This thing has not deviated. I mean, you can see that this thing is staying in the range, 94.50 down to 193. If this gets above 94.50, I think I'll be interested in making that play in the euro Swiss franc. But right now, as you can see, euro and Swiss franc kind of going sideways, so which means that both the Swiss franc and the euro crosses kind of looks the same. But again, I think both Swiss franc yen, euro yen, they are reversing off those key levels. So I think that's where you got to be very careful, because there's a distinction between a pullback versus a failed breakout. So you want to be keeping that in mind. All right. So during the FOMC, are you looking primarily at the potential trade with the dollar, or would you like to look at other currencies? Again, I think the play around like whatever news event it is, that's the currency in play. Dollar is in play. So I'm only looking at dollar currency pairs around that time. Now, when it comes to the pairing, that's where you can say, well, this is the best case scenario and this is the worst case scenario. When we looked at currency pairs, I said, hey, pound dollar on a 4-hour chart, I'm going to say right here, looks like a little bear rally to me. So I can take a look at this setup here. Take a look at dollar CAD. That's kind of setting up nicely here as a reversal. We got a higher high with a higher low. And if this breaks above it, making that little case here for a bullish case scenario. And lastly, we can take a look at even euro dollar, which is not the best looking setup. I mean, take a look at this one. Even on a 4-hour chart, you can see that it's making lower high and a lower low. Even this one, I would say, looks kind of look good over here. But again, pound dollar, euro dollar kind of looks the same here. So yeah, I'm only taking a look at those currency pairs. Now, for a best case scenario, right now we have positive momentum in the Aussie. So let me just take a look at Aussie Kiwi here. So, sorry, not the Aussie Kiwi, Aussie dollar here. Let me take a look at it back again. You can see that this is, again, even though when I take a look at this chart, I don't want to get long this pair until it really breaks above the 65.45 to 65.50 area. This is sideways. So again, I don't love Aussie dollar as a long or a short. Now maybe go in the Kiwi dollar. Again, same thing. Don't really love it as a long or a short. So again, that's where when you take a look at this, don't really love the dollar short here, to be honest, because we are right up against that key resistance on a basket. But I think if I take a look at risk to reward play, as we just look at those charts, I think dollar long probably looks like a better risk to reward play. Now, here's the frustrating part. There's definitely a lot of downward pressure in this dollar here. So each time dollar wants to bounce, it's almost like it hit by the gravity here. It keeps getting pulled back here. Now, we need to see that change for the dollar to really become a viable sort of a currency for a bounce here. So I think we are at that point. If it on a currency basket, you can see on a daily chart, I like the fact that we held on to the support and then we're kind of rising here. If this breaks out above this resistance here, I think I want to play this a little bit more directionally on a bounce. We haven't had, if you take a look at these candlesticks, you notice that like the maximum you've had as a bounce is 2 days, which was over here. You got a nice candlestick here, a nice candlestick there. After that, you can see one down day, one up day, one down day, and one up day. This is a very sideways price action. So for this to get directional, we need to see that consistency. So right now, we can look at this as a potential bounce. But if it gets a little bit more directional or start to break above key levels, then I think we can play more directionally. But a lot of times, you take a look at trades from a risk to reward perspective. And so sometimes I have the best looking setup, but I don't love the risk to reward. And sometimes you don't have the best looking setup, but you like the risk to reward. I think that's really where we are at with some of the dollar pairs. But again, we'll see what happens. But I think dollar. The pound dollar, euro dollar, and dollar CAD even looks good. Here's another one. I think dollar Swiss franc. Let's see where the dollar Swiss franc. On a daily chart, you can see dollar Swiss franc is bouncing right off that key support. So you see like how predictable these things are, where they're as soon as they get towards those key support areas, instead of getting a breakout because we are in a range bound condition, it does rise from there. So I think that's why you really have to flip the script and not go for the breakouts in these range bound conditions. All right, so let me know if you have any other questions. Otherwise, we'll just wrap things up here. I think we are pretty clear on what we are looking at, what the strategy is going into this news event. And as always, we'll want to be, take a look at how things, how markets react to it, if there's any sort of surprise factor to it. Because remember, first thing is going to come is a statement, and then we're going to have a press conference. And with the press conference, as Chair Powell ask some questions, things can really move and turn around as well. So usually between 2:30 to 3 p.m. Eastern time is where things will probably resolve. So the important thing for dollar today is to see how this thing ends. As we looked at that dollar basket, one thing that I'm taking a look at is how the dollar basket is going to close today and how some of the dollar pairs is going to close today. Because if they do close on the highs of the day, there's a potential for things to maybe have a further rally in the coming 24 hours there. All right, so let's just wrap things up here. Again, that range bound price action, they are confirmation. Look to be buy around the support and look to be sell around the resistance. I think that's just the best way to play these markets. And then talking about holding period, if things are going back and forth on a day-to-day basis, probably we want to look at more of an opportunity on that day and not hold that trade for too long. But if we're seeing a nice consistency between those ranges, then probably those trades could last for maybe a couple of days. 24 to 48 hours, I think, is the range here before they reverse. So that's just the way things are, and we're just going to continue trading those markets till we see a change. All right, thanks for joining here, and good luck with the news event here. And again, if you have any questions, just type in the Discord there. I'll be making comments there as well as this news event unfolds. Thanks for joining. Have a good rest of the day. Cheers.